Welcome back to the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. I got my guy finally, the wayward son himself, Brandon Adam, is back on the show. Brandon, we're here to talk about the NFL draft. We officially need your takes. So we've been talking in the VIP Discord over at dfsarmy.com about our updated rookie rankings because you maniacal, beautiful people are rocking your rookie drafts for your Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues. And there's been some disagreements here at the Army. You think I'm too high on some guys. You think I'm definitely too low on some guys, especially some of these tight ends. It feels like you're a lot higher on some of these tight ends than I am.
Yep.
We're going to get into it. But before we do, Brandon, we got to pay some bills here. So dfsarmy.com. Follow the links in the show description. Our VIP members continue to cash. It doesn't matter that there's no football right now, ladies and gentlemen. There's basketball. There's hockey.
MMA.
There's golf. There's MMA. Our members continue to cash. Go check it out. dfsarmy.com. dfsarmy.com. So, Brandon, first of all, how the hell are you doing, brother?
Good, man. It's so good to be back. I felt like I've just been, we've talked about coming back for a while. It's just every time we tried to get together, it was just our schedules couldn't make it happen. So I'm glad to be back. I've heard some trash talking through the grapevine. So we'll address that in a bit.
Hey, listen, we love trash talking about people's fantasy football takes because that's what we're here, man. We're all entitled to our opinions. Just don't suck with your opinion. But one of the reasons you've been missing so much time is because you continue to be training for the USA national sled hockey team, correct?
Yeah. Good, brother. I got moved up to the national team. So I just got back from Madison, Wisconsin for the training camp. In 2 weeks, we head up to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, Canada to go defend our world championship from last year. So I'll be out there playing some hockey pretty soon here. Pretty excited. Been working for years to get to this team and excited about it.
Fantastic. You can see my kid there.
I see him. What's up, buddy?
So, what's going on, Ashland? Hashtag dad life. But let's not bury the lead here, Brandon, because we've got our rankings, and I would say, you can pick and choose your order for the top of the rookie draft, but for the most part, there's a lot of consensus. And so the only leagues that I play in nowadays are Superflex leagues.
Yes.
They're all tight end premium. I understand that some of you people don't play in the tight end premium leagues.
Weak.
It's weak. You got to do it right. You got to make those positions viable. But so the rankings that we're going to be talking about today are for Superflex fantasy football. Okay.
Yes.
So that's why we're going to have these quarterbacks high up in the tiers. But for the most part, I mean, you got your Bijan Robinson, who I'd say generally speaking, he's a consensus 101, right? We've talked about on previous shows, Brandon, that you can probably argue Anthony Richardson, especially based on the fact if you've got a crappy team, you're not in a win now situation, Bijan might just rot on your team, right? So maybe you might want to take the swing with a monster like Anthony Richardson. Is Richardson your top quarterback in fantasy football right now for the rookies, Brandon? What's your take there?
No, I got CJ Stroud 1-2. But I have Anthony Richardson at 1.3. Yep. Bryce Young right after him. But Anthony Richardson, I love the traits. I get it a lot because I was a big Trey Lance guy, right? So I like traits. I like all those things, but man, this guy, when he misses. And so I feel like he's going to throw some dangerous balls, but if the organization is fully behind him, which it sounds like he is, they're going to let him make these mistakes and they're going to let him grow as a player and let him, just fail a little bit. And if they're allowed to do that and they aren't going to get weirded out about, really bad throws, I'm fine with him at 1-2. But with CJ Stroud, he's just a better overall quarterback as of today. Yeah. He just doesn't have a better supporting cast that Anthony Richardson has. He's on a weaker team, in my opinion, but CJ Stroud is the better talent, always has been the best talent in this draft for quarterback position. So I just feel like Anthony Richardson, his ceiling is incredible. It really is. Gigantic, I mean, you can't. It's Cam Newton plus, but his floor is very, very low. He's a big boomer bust, big swing guy. I love those kind of guys, but I just can't move. If I had the 1-2, I would take Stroud just because I just know he's the better quarterback right now, and there's not as much to work on in his game. He can elevate players around him because he's just more accurate. The way his ball placement is spot on. He throws into very small spaces. He has no qualms about fitting balls if he wants to into small areas, and he's going to have to do that with the supporting cast that he has right now. So next year, when Houston takes, maybe a Marvin Harrison Jr. In the top 3, because they'll be a bottom 3 team in the league.
Well, Houston won't have their draft pick next year, right?
Oh, they traded
it away to Arizona.
Oh, Arizona. Yeah, Arizona is going to be stacking up. Unfortunately, they got to do something. They got to sign a better player next year for wide receiver position. But I've been a big fan of Nico Collins for a while. So we'll see. I'm kind of curious to see what CJ Stroud's going to do. But overall, I have CJ as a talent better. So
yeah. So I've got my depth charts here, and pre-draft, some of the areas that we highlighted for the Houston Texans was a definite need at the wide receiver position. I mean, right now they're rocking Robert Woods, Nico Collins, they got Noah Brown, and of course they went and got Tank Dell, who apparently CJ Stroud specifically asked the organization to get, which
he did
fine, but dude's my size basically, and I would be destroyed. I'm not even exaggerating. He's about my size, a little bit more fit than I am, obviously, but he's my size, and so just playing I get it. Like casual flag football with my buddies, size matters. And Tank Dell, good luck, brother. Good luck.
Anthony Richardson for sure. I mean, I get it a lot, but on average, when rookie quarterbacks come into the league, they drop 10% on their completion rate. He's already a 55% passer. So when you're talking about him dropping into the 40s on average, that's what happens to these quarterbacks. That is a problem. And so I really hope they simplify this offense and make it a one-read run type offense until he, gets better with his mechanics and is more, gets coached up. He really needs to get coached up with his feet. He throws with his arm a lot. He needs to lead with his feet and set a better foundation when he throws the football. If he can do that, then he's going to be a very good player. But maybe he'll be Jalen Hurts. But Jalen Hurts is a way better thrower of the football than Anthony Richardson, when he came in as a, so.
And that's a really good point, right? So people are obviously alluding or looking for a very similar trajectory as Jalen Hurts, right? Because Shane Steichen, his coach, has come over from Philadelphia, now the head coach in Houston in Indianapolis. And the thing is that when you looked at Jalen Hurts, one of the reasons that we were so high on Jalen Hurts, this was back in our old days at the Flex Network, but I was standing on my chair saying it started around 2. You had to go and get Jalen Hurts because of this massive upside. And just you have to understand the character of these players. And then you look at history, right? I think one of the challenges with Anthony Richardson is we really only have 1 year of starting data on a player like that. Whereas with a guy like Jalen Hurts, every single year you saw improvement with his passing percentage, right? With his completion percentage. Amen. We don't really have that data with Anthony Richardson yet. But, if you're the Indianapolis Colts, I applaud them just based on the fact that they went out and they swung for it, because
take a swing. I love it.
Yeah. You got to take the swing because, as a franchise, you look at the gauntlet that is the AFC and the quarterback quality in that conference. And you're not going to win with a mediocre quarterback. So I'm glad that they took the swing at Anthony Richardson versus like a Will Levis, who, I mean, we saw how the NFL felt about him, right? Sounds like there was something off. Some teams are trying to trade back into the first to get him, but because of the quality of depth at the end of the draft there, teams were willing to trade back. We saw Tennessee trade up to get them at the second pick in the second round. But I mean, it's just he's an incomplete player, right? He's an older. Will Levis is
a better thrower of the football right now than Anthony Richardson. Period. So I just want people to understand that. Yeah. But I really think, I don't know what is the reason why he dropped, but I heard his interviews weren't great. So that's something, when coaches don't like your personality, maybe you come in there a little entitled, and you feel like you're entitled, you put off that kind of vibe, that can be a very big negative, man. And Anthony Richardson, when you talk to him, man, he's electric. You know, his personality is magnetic. You can see it. Everybody that interviewed him said that he is an extremely charismatic guy, and a leader of men. So I get that. So if that's and at the QB position, that is such a underrated trait that you need to have. And you know, people around you got to believe in you at that position. So,
well, let's put a bow here on the quarterback conversation, Brandon, because the way that we have it set up is I've got Bijan 1, and then pick your poison of 2, 3, 4. I actually have Anthony Richardson in the top tier with Bijan, but then in the next tier 2, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young in that order.
Yeah.
I have Will Levis sitting at 110 in my rankings. He's the top of my tier 5. So essentially, you've got those quarterbacks. I've got JSN and Jahmyr Gibbs in a tier together. And then I've got the balance of the 3 round 1 wide receivers: Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnston. I'm taking all those guys ahead of Will Levis. My question to you is, am I too high, too low, or just right on Will Levis at the top of that next tier at pick 110 in a super flex format?
I like it where he is. You got him appropriately ranked, I think. The only person that I would move out or move down would be Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers has a lot of competition to go into the Ravens. They got Odell, which carries a very big you don't sign Odell Beckham to not throw the football to him. And then you got Rashad Bateman.
Hold on one sec.
You know,
I just want to comment on that, Brendan.
Yeah.
So the Baltimore Ravens came out this week and they admitted as much as the fact that one of the reasons behind signing Odell Beckham, obviously they obviously think he's still got a step in his, or a pep in his step, right? But one of the things they came out and said was, listen, he's going to help put butts in stands. He's got an electric personality. People love Odell Beckham, right? Well, he can be very polarized, and for the most part, people love this guy.
I love him.
Yeah, I do too. You got to love him. I mean, the whole thing with the Giants going on vacation, but during the week before their first playoff game, that definitely soured me on Odell. I'm not going to lie to you, but
he grew up from then.
He's grown up since then, right? He's a mature. He's a man. He probably would have gotten Super Bowl MVP had he not been injured, right? So the dude could still have a step, but there's a reason he wasn't signed last year, and so I would just caution our audience to say that a first round pick like Zay Flowers at the start of the season probably is going to be buried on the depth chart behind like an Odell Beckham. But I believe at this stage in their careers, Zay Flowers is a superior prospect, a superior player, probably not as refined and mature, right? It's a different game. But I would say if I'm betting, man, like if it's a redraft, it's an underdog best ball draft, I'm absolutely drafting Zay Flowers before I'm drafting Odell Beckham, man.
I totally disagree. I would 100% disagree on that. Odell is a real one. Zay Flowers is going to be a glorified slot player. He's a nice player for an offense. He's a nice option. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm saying they have a role for him. He is not a 1. He is never going to be a 1. Okay. They got Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman is a better prospect than Zay Flowers ever was. Okay. And I'm that's just, it's just facts. Okay. Bateman is a better player than Zay Flowers. It's just the fact that he couldn't stay healthy last year, like every Raven that goes to that freaking complex. I don't understand why their players can't stay healthy. I don't understand it. There was a team report card stuff that came out about all the teams, and they said that their strength and conditioning program was a F. Okay, was a terrible strength and conditioning program in Baltimore. That is a big problem when you got these mass injuries. Okay, so I hope they are revamping whatever they're doing, their philosophy there, to keep people healthy. But Bateman, if he could just stay healthy, he is going to be the number 2 in that offense behind Odell Beckham. Or Andrew's still probably 1. Odell's 2. And then it will be Bateman. And then you got JK, and they love to run the rock. They're still going to run the rock. They aren't going to move away from that, okay? They are going to run the rock with Monken. That is a big part of their philosophy in Ravenland. So I just don't think Zay Flowers is going to get the amount of opportunities that people think he's going to get as a first-round pick. He's a nice player, okay, for certain roles, but I do not think he was worthy of being a first-round pick. I think he was more of a top of the second-round pick. He should have been, I think because this was a weaker wide receiver draft, that a lot of these teams kind of convinced themselves that they needed to take their shot on their guys they liked on film, because there really wasn't standouts in this. The only standout in this whole draft class for wide receiver was Jackson Smith-Njigba, okay? Mm-hmm. Jackson Smith-Njigba was the only wide receiver that was worthy of a top 15 pick. He was top 20, but he should have been easily in the top 15, top 10. That I think without his injury history, he would have easily been in that conversation. Mm-hmm. When you got Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave on record saying that JSN is the most athletic wide receiver of the three and the best player of the three, you got to listen to the players a little bit. You got to understand when you play with guys and they stand up and they say, yeah, he's better than me. And look what Garrett Wilson did last year. Everybody, Garrett Wilson crushed it. Chris Olave crushed it. And when you got those two telling you JSN's the real deal and the real alpha of the room, and when he is successful and healthy, when all three of them are on the field together and he was producing the way he was at Ohio State, that tells me more than he pulled some hammies and had some issues, okay, with health. That's going to happen as a football player, okay? But Jackson Smith-Njigba is the only wide receiver in this draft class that is a locked-in wide receiver one that I know for a fact can walk into any room and dominate the room. And going to Seattle is going to be awesome because he's going to be singled up all the time because of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on the same field, okay? So he's going to have a lot of touchdowns. The yardage might not be there, but he's going to get a lot of touchdowns the next year. So
let's make it an official take here, Brandon. You're on the clock, okay? You have one draft, right? Obviously, if you're in a position where you do multiple drafts, you can diversify. You have one draft, okay? Who are you taking? Are you taking Jahmyr Gibbs or Jackson Smith-Njigba? Because Jahmyr Gibbs, to the moon, man. There's people out there with their hot takes that he's the 101 in these drafts, which is absolutely cockamamie. Absolutely cockamamie.
Okay. Last year, when we were talking about, mid last season, we were talking about all these prospects, and we were talking, who's the number 2 running back in this class. And I kept saying Gibbs was the number 2, and I was getting shit by Trash Man about it. And he was saying, no, he's not. He's too small, blah, blah, blah. He won't be that. It'll be Zach Charbonnet. He even said this clown, Sean Tucker, was going to be the number 2 running back in the class. And the guy was a freaking undrafted free agent. So hot take there, Trash Man. Great one.
Well, but okay, to be fair,
I'm just telling you, Jahmyr Gibbs is a stud. He will produce right away. You could tell that Detroit Lions, that draft room went berserk getting him. So the biggest thing with DeAndre Swift with the Lions was that he never got I don't think he was a coach's favorite, and I don't think he was very well liked in that locker room with the coaches. So I really think they are going to make Jahmyr Gibbs successful because they like the guy and that is their guy. But with me, I like to draft. I had Jackson Smith-Njigba well ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs in my overall talent rankings before the draft even happened. Okay. So I'm not going to move off of that. The last time I moved off of that was when Brown went to the Titans and I moved him down in my ranks, which is a freaking fatal mistake. Okay.
Yep.
I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to go with Jackson Smith-Njigba, and I'm going to be extremely happy about it because wide receivers have longer careers, and this guy is a total stud, and literally Seattle Seahawks are going to be the Bengals 2.0. They have every bit of the talent that the Bengals have, And if Geno Smith doesn't turn into a pumpkin next year and actually still is slinging at the rate he was last year, Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be very successful off the hop as well. So, but Jahmyr Gibbs will have a better year one. I will say that.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a fair assessment. So, just so I'm clear here, Brendan, in rookie drafts, because we're talking about the next 2 to 3 years for Dynasty rookie rankings, right? You're taking JSN above Jahmyr Gibbs because you believe that over that 3-year span, he's going to score more fantasy points.
Yeah. Lockett's old, man. Lockett's old.
Yeah.
He plays through a lot of injuries, man. And when you got JSN there, he's not going to be forced to the field like in the past where there was nobody else behind Lockett. So I guarantee there was internal pressure to get him to play. And with JSN being in the room, I guarantee you they aren't going to be feeding the rock as much to Lockett this year. They're going to pull back a little bit on those opportunities and feed that to the rookie. And Pete loves playing young guys. He is not afraid to play young guys. Remember when DK was a rookie, what happened late in the season and into the playoffs? Remember what he did to the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs? Like, that is the kind of – he is going to get opportunities late in the season. Okay.
Brandon, to your point, the Seattle Seahawks locker room is a meritocracy. The best players will get playing time.
Yes, sir.
And here's the thing. Like, Tyler Lockett throughout his career hasn't always been a beacon of health as well, right? So we think that it's going to take a little bit of time before JSN has a major role in that offense. But the reality is injuries are real, right? And he could get an opportunity faster than we see. And one of them, and to your earlier point about AJ Brown, in fantasy football, especially in Dynasty, we're so quick to see what's right in front of our face, right? We can't see the forest of the trees, as they say, right? So have a long-term perspective on this and understand that situation can change and it can change quickly. Just look at what happened when AJ Brown got traded, right? He went from like a middling, probably wide receiver 2. Now he's like the de facto conversation top 5 wide receiver in Dynasty football and in redraft. So
he's always been a wide receiver 1 in my eyes. But I just want you to understand, like, people need to understand. I get it. I get the depth chart, but Jackson Smith-Njigba is a dude, and he is going to be a dude in any room he goes to. And now he gets to watch and train with DK Metcalf, and he's going to be watching that freakish wide receiver as well to compete with. That only is going to elevate Jackson Smith-Njigba to be better as well. All these Ohio State wide receivers they come into the rooms and they produce. They have been producers, and JSN is going to be no different. Okay. I can't tell you. He is Keenan Allen with better speed. Okay. Keenan Allen ran like a 4.6. Okay. Jackson Smith-Njigba ran like a high 4.4 at his pro day. So people need to understand who this guy is and don't bury him, because he is the most talented wide receiver in this class. And it's not even close to me. Okay. Like, he has it all. So, Jordan Addison, even though I love Jordan Addison, I'm an SC guy. I've watched Jordan as much as possible. I was so excited when he transferred to USC from Pitt. But when Pickett left, he left. Okay. And he came to USC. His production went down a little bit, but the talent is there. He just needs to put a little bit of weight on for the NFL, and he'll be just fine.
Which he can. I absolutely love Jordan Addison. I have him ranked as my wide receiver too. Man, he fell in a fantastic spot too, right? Playing alongside Justin Jefferson. People are worried, well, Jefferson's just going to absorb. No, that's not how the NFL works, right?
Nope. Like,
Jefferson's going to get probably between 150 to 170 targets, which is elite production opportunity.
Of course.
But Addison's going to probably get 125 targets as a rookie.
Yeah.
And then you're going to
see Adam Thielen? Come on.
And here's the thing too, people. Do you remember last year in fantasy football, what did you do? You played your wide receivers against the Minnesota Vikings because their secondary was atrocious. Guess what? They didn't really go out there and do a lot to address that situation, right? Which means they're going to be throwing a ton. And guess what? Captain Kirk, he's in a contract year. The Minnesota Vikings have said, we'll consider extending it, or essentially adding on to the contract. But Cousins came out this week and even said, listen, I need to earn this, right? It's a new coaching staff there. I need to earn my opportunity to stay on this team next year. It's a contract year. Captain Kirk, step up and make Jordan Addison a viable fantasy football player, which I think he will be. Let's talk a little bit about the end of my round one rankings here. Sure. So one of the players you identified that I'm a little bit too low on, I'd say we're in the same ballpark, but it's Dalton Kincaid of the Buffalo Bills. So he was drafted at 1.25. One of the key things here is that the Buffalo Bills did trade up. I think they wanted to leapfrog Dallas, right? Because it was pretty projected. Dallas was in the market for a tight end. I have him right now at my 111. My question is, who would you put him in front of? Players right in front of him: Will Levis, Quentin Johnston. So I would say, based on our conversation, Zay Flowers is the one guy. So I'm probably one spot lower than you are.
So I think I would put right now. I would actually swap in your rankings because you have Zay Flowers at 8. I would probably put Dalton Kincaid in that slot because he is
Quentin Johnston.
Quentin Johnston. I was a big fan of him, but he ran a slow 40. Okay.
Yeah.
He ran a slow 40. I thought he was faster on tape. That's just playing in that Big 12 where everybody runs free and looks fast. Okay. Yeah. So that is where you can get a little bit tripped up. And that is something I kind of dial back a bit on QJ. Yeah. But with Dalton Kincaid, with the rarity of tight ends, okay, there is not very many tight ends in this league right now that are elite in fantasy football with production. Yep. When you got a player that's going to go play with Josh Allen and he is going to be clearly I think he is going to be the second option in that offense very quickly. And if that is what happens and he becomes a move tight end and becomes a Jimmy Graham type guy in year one, where he's going to get opportunity, because we looked at Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox, he really did nothing last year. Even when he had the opportunity, okay? He didn't do very much. He was very inconsistent. And I think because this was such a weak wide receiver class, the Buffalo Bills were like, let's take this elite tight end, Dalton Kincaid, and we're going to move him around in the slot. We're going to move him outside. He's going to be able to play on the outside as well and be able to take reps against, wider the second DB, because all DB, all these defenses are going to be doubling Diggs every single game. And then you got you got Gabe Davis. I love Gabe Davis, but last year, I don't know what was going on with him. He looked a little bit slow, and he just looked slower than he was the year before. So I don't know if they fully trust him as the wide receiver 2. So I think Dalton Kincaid is going to walk into that offense, and by week 4 or 5, we're going to see Dalton Kincaid start merging into being their hybrid wide receiver 2 type role, where he's going to get a lot of looks, and you're going to get those looks from Josh Allen.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, Dalton Kincaid, he's out of Utah, and he was at Utah offense. He actually led the team in 2022 with 70 receptions, 890 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. I mean, the guy's an absolute monster.
His target share was ridiculous.
Yeah, it really was. And actually, I don't have it in front of me.
It was like close to 30%.
Yeah, 33.7%.
Yeah,
college target share. That is absolute. That's an elite level. That's elite for the wide receiver position, let alone the tight end position. So that absolutely makes sense. And what I like is the fact that he is a decent size of 246 pounds, right? Anything like 250 is usually that line that we like. 245 is kind of that minimum where they can actually be an everyday.
He'll gain a little weight.
Yep. Yeah, and he'll definitely gain weight. But
he can move. He can eat grass up. The guy is a smooth athlete. And he knows how to settle down in open spaces against zone. He knows how to get off a press. He can do all of that. And he can do it like a wide receiver can. And that's why he is elite. And that's why he's talked about in the same breath as the way when I see him run the football with running routes, and when I see him with the ball in his hand, he looks like a young Travis Kelce to me, okay? He looks like a guy that has all the tools, but can he be refined into that weapon like a Kelsey was with the coaching and with an offense that really was tight end centric? So with this offense with the Bills, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with him. If they are going to, if they give this kid Dalton the opportunities like I think he's going to get, I really believe he will be the second pass option in this offense by mid-year. I really do. I feel like that, and that's rare for a tight end. And that's why I have him above these middling wide receivers that like a Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnston has some ability, man, but
don't put that hate in the world, Brandon D. Adam. Come on now, man. Come on now, not to Zay. Listen, if you want to throw shade on some of these round 2 wide receivers, because it's kind of a dog's breakfast, which one of these guys is going to emerge in a year as the top one, right? Like there's arguments for every one of these guys. Jonathan Mingo's up there as one of these guys. But I have this smattering of those round 2 wide receivers, as well as a few round 3 running backs before I even consider taking my next tight end, which I've got Michael Mayer as my second ranked tight end, but I got him way down at 2.9 because I have players like Rashee Rice, Marvin Mims, Jaden Reed, Jonathan Mingo, these types of players above, because in fantasy football, and this is just my logic, okay? So a player like Dalton Kincaid, I think can transcend and can be one of those players to become that, top 5 conversation, right? Like we look at the tight end landscape. There's Travis Kelce, right? That's in his tier of his own. He's going definitively to pick 1.4, 1.5 in drafts right now. And then there's a pretty big teardrop. And then there's a conversation around like a Mark Andrews. And then, yes, there's these difference makers, but players that don't really move the needle, right? And I feel like Michael Mayer is going to be one of those guys where he could be in the conversation as like a number 7 to 12 tight end in a given week. But is he going to make a definitive difference on your team? Whereas I don't believe he is, right? Like he's just one of those guys in that conversation where one week he could be the tight end 1, the next week he might be the tight end 17, right? That's the kind of player where he is. Whereas Dalton Kincaid, I feel like on a weekly basis is going to have more of a participation in that offense, and he's going to be more consistent, which those are the types of tight ends I'm willing to pay up for. So that's why I have this smattering of wide receivers and a few of these running backs like a Devon Achane, a Kendre Miller, even a Zach Charbonnet above Michael Mayer. You think I'm crazy here, right? You think that I need to be moving Michael Mayer up?
I just feel
it's about right.
I feel like, it's not bad. It's not like, I just feel like Michael Mayer he runs the football like he's Michael Myers, man. When the ball is in his hands, the guy is literally just looking for contact and can't wait to just smash through people, man. And that is, and you could tell he is laughing and having the time of his life when he's doing it. And that reminds, and when I first saw him, and I'm a big USC guy, so I watched him play against my Trojans. And when Notre Dame played the Trojans, it was a Michael Myers show, man.
Myers.
Like Michael Mayer is literally, he just looked like a serial killer out there, and that's why I love the guy. It turned me on with him, and he ran a slower 40. I get it. I get that. That's fine. That's okay. But he ran a faster 40 than Rob Gronkowski. Okay, so people need to understand that, like, you don't need to have a burner wide receiver to be an ultimate or ultimate tight end. You don't need to be a burner. You just need to be able to make the catches and create space in those tight little areas in the middle of the field, which Michael Mayer does he does that on the regular. And his routes are not bad routes at all. Like I just was talking to one of our followers, DK. Shout out. He's been a real OG fan of ours, and him and I were talking about Michael last night, and he's like, he just looks, like he's a lumbering tight end. And I just told him, I was like, he's eating more grass up than you understand. He is traveling faster than people understand in pads. He may run a 4.7 40, but in pads, he doesn't lose any speed. A lot of these guys lose speed when they put the pads on, and in the game, they slow down. This guy stays the same. He runs good routes that separate, and he actually, when he is being contested, he comes down with it almost every time. And that is something to me that when you are a tight end, it's a must-have trait, and he has that. He has shorter arms for the tight end position. I get that too. But he makes the plays. And that, look at the tape. Don't look at the metrics all the time, guys. Look at the tape. What does this guy do in the games? And when this guy is on it and rumbling, his teammates lose their minds. And the reason they lose their minds is because they love to play with this guy. And that tells me he was the captain of his team, okay? He is a leader. He is a leader of men. He's going to show up in the Raiders locker room and be the tight end one from day one. And that is an opportunity that you can't scoff at. And especially with a McDaniels coach that coached up Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. He was the architect behind all that. So that tells me when they go get a Michael Mayer, that gives me the go to say, you know what, in a position that is very weak, that you can make an impact as coming in, because there really isn't that many impact tight ends in the league. Yeah. That tells me that he has the opportunity to actually make a difference in that slot for you when you put him in there. So it's not like I have him at 2-1. I have him at like 2. I have him at like 2-4, 2-3. I'm comfortable there, right after Hendon Hooker. I have Hendon Hooker at like 2-3 because I believe in that guy too. I think he can walk into, if Jared Goff struggles at all, watch for Hooker. Hooker is going to come in, and everybody that's been around Hooker in this process is in love with the player and in love with the person. Yep. And the guy beat Bama. The guy made Jalen Hyatt into who he is. And Hyatt is another guy that I have higher than you do too as well. I have him above. I would have him at 2-9, 2-8. Roshan Johnston, you have him a little bit too high for me. He's at the end of the second for me. I think it's going to be Dante Foreman and Khalil Herbert show there in Chicago. Mayer is a dude that I just love watching. They call him Baby Gronk for a reason, man, because he looks like it. He really does. Like, that's just my opinion on it.
No, that's good. You like Michael Mayer. Look, in terms of like an upside comp, Zach Ertz would be the top end of the comp. Heath Miller, which is like an inline blocking tight end, is kind of that mid end, right? Both are going to be good for real NFL teams. For fantasy football, we definitely prefer the Zach Ertz over the Heath Miller.
Give me Zach Ertz. Exactly.
Yeah, of course, right? Yeah. That's what we're hoping for. That's what you're banking on as the upside range of outcomes here. Now, right around the 2.1 to the 2.6, there's this very tough area of players to really sort out. So in that range, I have players like Kendre Miller, Zach Charbonnet, and this is actually my order, okay? From the 112 down to the 2.6. We got Kendre Miller, Zach Charbonnet, Devon Achane, okay? So this is where 3 running backs go off the board. And then a whole bunch of round 2 wide receivers. I have Rashee Rice at the top of this tier.
Yes.
Some say I'm too high, others say I'm too low. I think I'm just right. But Rashee Rice, I got Marvin Mims, Jaden Reed, which those 2 players I have a hard time swapping. Right now, I still have Marvin Mims above Jaden Reed, mainly based on the fact that Marvin Mims is 21, Jaden Reed's 23. And then Jonathan Mingo is the bottom of that tier. He's 22 years old. Now, Jonathan Mingo, I've heard him say that he's like an Alan Lazard with draft capital. That's what I've heard on some other shows. I'm not a huge Jonathan Mingo player. I think that at 208, all the players that I just listed, I would have taken above Jonathan Mingo. But tell me about Jonathan Mingo. Why am I too low on this guy? And why did the Carolina Panthers decided they had to go and get this guy?
Because I think he can walk in and he has the traits to be a wide receiver 1. What he needs is a little bit more refinement. And being around Adam Thielen is going to do this guy wonders, man. It's going to make him into a pro. Unfortunately, with Ole Miss, the quarterback play was garbage. And if you actually look at his a lot of his best catches were underthrown balls that he adjusted to, and that he actually had 0 chance to get yak yards. Okay. And if these balls were thrown in the right place, this guy, his yak ability would have been his numbers would have been a lot better. But his athleticism score is second in the class according to Player Profiler. Okay, so he ran a 4.4. He's 6'1", 226. He ran a 4.46. His speed score was 114, 96th percentile. His burst score is 131, 91 percentile. His agility was a 45, but that's fine. He's muscled up. He's a little bit muscled up and stiffer hips and whatnot. But his catch radius is elite as well, 83rd percentile. 100. So that he is as of right now, he is second as far as athleticism score with Player Profiler, and that is a big deal to me when you're talking about all these other wide receivers. What separates these wide receivers in this hodgepodge in the second round for rookie drafts, right? So Mingo, to me, has opportunity. Who else is in Carolina? Nobody. Okay. What was the best part about Bryce Young's profile coming out? What was his best trait? His trait,
aptitude, I would say, right?
His aptitude and the position of where he throws the ball, man. He gives his playmakers the ability to make plays after the catch. That is a huge deal. Jonathan Mingo never had that opportunity at Ole Miss. He never had a quarterback that could deliver the ball in the right spot for him to continue on down the field. His best plays came from when he was caught the ball behind the line of scrimmage, and he actually made plays after the catch and was able to finish 70, 65-yard runs for touchdowns. He was able to do that. So this guy knows how to set up blocks, which is a part of the new age of football these days. Is a lot of these bubble screens, a lot of these routes behind the line of scrimmage, and this guy was so good at setting up his blocks. He was able to create space for himself by using his teammates correctly, because he didn't just run full speed right when he got the ball, man. He let the play develop. And that tells me he wasn't rushed. He wasn't rushing the play. And that as an athlete myself, one of my biggest flaws is that I rush plays. And that is something I look at as when I look into other athletes. Who plays the game under control and who plays the game that allows teammates to actually execute the offense, okay? And Jonathan Mingo does that as good as anybody else in this draft. Marvin Mims does it pretty well too. I'm not saying he doesn't. He does that pretty well too. He's faster than Jonathan Mingo. I just think Jonathan Mingo is built to withstand a wide receiver one role and he can actually work inside and outside.
Yeah.
And that's why I like Jonathan Mingo over Marvin Mims. So
I think that's fair.
And I feel like the opportunity is there because the cupboard's bare in Carolina.
Yeah.
This guy is going to be on the field immediately. So that is one reason why I have him above your boy Marvin Mims.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And when you look at just the profiles of pretty much the entire wide receiver class, I mean, Jonathan Mingo was that guy, right? He's 6'1", 226 pounds. He's a big target for their young rookie quarterback.
He looks like Anquan Bolden, but with 4.4 speed. Like that's who he looks like to me. And Anquan Bolden ran a 4.65 or something like that, 40. He was slow as hell.
We don't need.
He was awful.
There's got to be like a bare minimum. Like you don't want to be running like a 4.6 and up. Like to me, that's a little bit slow, right?
That's bad.
There's a bare minimum of speed, and when you hit that threshold at a wide receiver position, unless your job is the Z where you're going to stretch the zone, you don't need that elite speed, right? And what we found is actually that speed doesn't really correlate with fantasy football production. Or just general production in the NFL, period. So I think that makes sense. And then, just like the narrative of the Ole Miss wide receiver factory, right? You got your DK Metcalfs, AJ Browns, Elijah Moore, who he ain't dead yet, ladies and gentlemen.
No, he ain't. Yet. He's going to be alive and well.
Yeah.
Alive and well.
So I think that's sharp. Let's talk a little bit about some of these deeper rankings here. Okay. So
sure.
Coming into round 3, it's pretty much wide open. It's pick your poison at this point. some of these second tier running backs, like the Tank Bigsby's of the world, the Tajay Spears of the world, the Chase Browns of the world. Do you have a strong take on any of these players, or who do you would want to take a shot on? I think, even just looking at my rankings here, I got to move Chase Brown up into that higher tier with Tank Bigsby and Tajay Spears. Tajay Spears, especially as more and more is coming out, I'm really worried about his health long term. I know with Dynasty, we have this tendency to say, I'm going to look 5 years out. Really, we need to be looking at 2 to 3 year windows, right? Maximum. So maybe he's okay there in the third round. But Chase Brown, path to touches in the Cincinnati Bengals offense. If anything happens to Joey Mixon, if he misses time, which, listen, we've seen how the NFL's played out with the Alvin Kamara thing. I don't think that Mixon's going to miss any time this year related to those incidents, right? Unless something
neither does the Bengals. Neither does the Bengals, obviously, because they didn't really draft anybody. Like, they didn't address it at all. I think they could possibly add like a Zeke Elliott. They could add a Lenny Fournette. At some point. That's something that could happen for the Bengals. I think that's more the route they're thinking if there is any kind of issue. But I think they're going to wait till, later in the process here before they do that. But as of right now, I think Tank Bigsby is the guy out of that hodgepodge in the third round. Like you have it. I think you got it right. Just because – like our boy Mike Dickinson has always said about Coach Pedersen. The guy does not commit to his running backs. He likes to rotate. He likes to rotate those backs. So Tank is going to be on the field a little bit. And if ETN has any issues, he could walk right into a starting role and be all right and actually execute just fine. He has a good profile to do that. But the guy I like in the third round, it's not a running back. It's Kayshon Boutte. I think
now you're talking dirty to me, baby. Let's go.
I think, and he's a dirty dog, as we know.
Yeah, he is.
So Kayshon Boutte, an LSU wide receiver, that's a troubled guy, man. He's had some issues. He's had injury stuff, but he has shown he's got talent. He ran a slow 40. There's a lot of stuff surrounding this guy. And there's a reason why he got drafted in the 6th round when you're a LSU wide receiver that's shown some ability. And New England took a shot on this guy, and that is something I kind of like because he's going to go to a place where there's no bullshit allowed. There is no, if you're out of step in New England, you're going to be gone faster than you could, you're going to be gone. And I think he understands that. So if Kayshon goes in there with the right mindset, he's got some talent, man. He's got some talent. He can run some routes. And if he can stay healthy, that is somebody in the third. We're talking about the third round here. We're talking about lobbing, darts. We're talking about trying to swing for the fences. And that is a guy I've been very interested to get on my rosters to be able, because I don't think Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy. I think he's a good wide receiver too. Yep. And that I think New England got him to possibly be the one, but man, I just don't see that as in his profile. I think he needs somebody next to him to be able to, so Juju can go against one, be singled up a lot. And so he can, beat man coverage and beat just one person. He can do that. But with Kayshon, that's a name that I kind of like. Another name I kind of like too is Luke Musgrave, another tight end that went to Green Bay. Yes. There is a real opportunity for him in Green Bay to be able to produce right away. It's not like this guy was selected in the 5th round or anything, 4th round. He was selected at the 211. So that tells me they believe in this guy, and Luke Musgrave has a profile that people like and that you can use as a tight end position. And so let's see if he develops into something so you could take a shot on him. I would take shots on those two names over, a Chase Brown or, Darnell Washington or there's other, Cedric Tillman. Those guys really don't do it for me. at least with those two names I gave out is Kayshon Boutte. I know it's a boomer bust type thing, but we're talking about 3rd round picks here. Like, who cares?
Brandon,
so like
that's very sharp. That's very sharp because listen, in terms of hit rates, obviously first round is about 2/3 of first round picks will hit, which means 1/3 will actually bust. It's closer to what 30 to 50% of round 2 picks actually hit. We're talking about for fantasy football where they're locked and loaded, flex plays even, right? Round 3, we think there's a lot of value in these round 3 players, and you look at it, and there's a lot of names we like there. But the truth is, it's still a very small percentage of these players actually hit and are fantasy relevant players in the NFL. So if you have a guy, I would say round 3 is when you want to start taking those shots. And if you say have like just a smattering of round 4 or round 5 picks, see if you can just get rid of a bunch of that trash and just try to get even like a mid
get into the 3rd
pick. Yeah, because those are the shots where you're taking those higher percentage lottery tickets.
Agreed.
And a player like Kayshon Boutte, listen, as a Patriots fan, in round 6 at pick 610, I'm like, that's absolutely perfect, right? I mean, you got this. There's this boom bust opportunity, like you already mentioned, Brandon, and the odd chance that maybe like sometimes I think this guy's just got the an unbelievable talent, which we see with his 18.3 breakout age, which is that's elite people.
It's elite,
elite, but he just doesn't like football. It's one of these guys who just has talent, right? So maybe, and I'm just speculating here. So maybe his parents put him in football and he just excelled, and then he goes to the college level and he just excels. But he's like, listen, I'm not really into this game, man. So he goes. He has a very, very, very lackluster combine. Does he go and try to retest at his LSU pro day? Nah, I'm good. I'm going to stick with my.
He does have a nonchalant attitude.
Yeah, and that worries me a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? Another player that the guy that I think about that has all the talent in the world, but just doesn't really like football. Devontae Parker, another player on the Patriots. So I'm not 100% confident that the room around him is going to be a huge difference making. I mean, notoriously the Patriots are horrible at choosing wide receivers in the draft, but listen, knock on wood, in terms of upside, Kayshon Boutte certainly has it. He has that pedigree compared to some of these previous players. Now, round 3, I'm not taking him anytime before that, right? Round 3 is where you're going to start conversation, and then it's pick your poison. If you want to Chase Brown because you think path to workload, he's an older rookie, Canadian, by the way, Brandon, one of my boys. A great interview too, by the way. If you ever go and listen to one of these Chase Brown interviews, fantastic interview. But a player like Chase Brown, he's a horrible pass blocker. Okay, so he's going to be first and second down back. Actually, a lot of these rookies are not fantastic pass blockers, so that worries me. So just be cautious with some of these players. We think, okay, like a Devon Achane, locked and loaded. He's going to be the third down guy. Like those are players that they've got massive bust potential too, right? So
he's Chase Edmonds, but quicker.
Which we saw how Chase.
I understand. Chase Edmonds had a role. He had his time, but I just feel like when you're talking about Rashee Rice, let's talk about a little bit about him. We were talking about him in the chat a little bit yesterday, and there's some hot takes about him. Jeff Mans has him as his number one guy, number one wide receiver in the class. I think that's just starving for attention kind of take, but. It's not like he's not talented. I get it. He's talented. He's 6'2", 200 and something pounds. I get it. He's got some real ability. He can make some fantastic catches under when he's contested in the air. His catch radius is sick. I get it. He's going to the Chiefs, so that gets me excited. I get that. But what has happened? What do we see with the Chiefs, man? If you aren't Tyreek Hill. This offense is going through Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, and that's pretty much it. Until Travis Kelce pulls back his workload, I don't see a bona fide wide receiver one kind of coming from there anymore, unless you're an elite talent that like a Tyreek Hill, where you can be super creative for him. And it took, remember. Tyreek Hill wasn't Tyreek Hill until like year 2.5, year 3. Yep. Like he had to be molded into that weapon he became. He got molded into that. So let's see what happens. And then you got your Sky Moore there. You got your Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney oozes talent, but he's another guy that I don't think he likes football. I don't think he likes football.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think he likes paychecks, but I just don't think he likes football. And I don't think he likes to play through injuries, play through the nagging soreness of being an NFL player. I just don't think he has that in him. So I don't think he's going to be the guy there. So there is a possibility Rashee Rice becomes a nice wide receiver 2 for you down the line. I get that. But with like a Jonathan Mingo, you're getting a real opportunity right off the bat, and he has he has the traits to be a guy. So let's see, man. I'm curious to see the guys that are out of Rashee Rice, Marvin Mims, and Jonathan Mingo. Out of those 3 guys, who is gonna be the guy that rises above and becomes a steady producer for fantasy football? That's going to be exciting.
I think, Brandon, just to put a bow on this, we're 55 minutes. We're going to end the show here quickly. It's that whichever one of these guys has the best head on his shoulders to go and just become a sicko at football. Now, one of the things that we got our boy Mike Dickinson in the chat here talking about how Mahomes, the GM, went out and asked the front office to draft Rice.
I love it. I got it.
Yeah, so Rashee Rice, I mean, he actually trains. I believe it's the Always Open Passing Academy is where they were training, right? So they have some pass chemistry, which you like to see that, right? But we've also seen that Patrick Mahomes, the GM, pushing for a player like CEH was a mistake, right?
Yeah, so, huge mistake.
We like Mahomes the player, not as much as we prefer Mahomes the player versus Mahomes the GM, but it's still an important narrative, right?
For sure.
At the end of the day, one of the key things that's really going to differentiate a lot of these players, because these guys were drafted to the NFL. They're all very, very talented players. You look at their production profiles, a lot of these guys have warts. There's no perfect prospect. Even a JSN prospect, Brandon, I think you can agree to, he isn't a perfect prospect. He's a fantastic one.
No, he's not
like perfect. Jamar Chase, to me, like if you're building a prospect in a lab, Jamar Chase is that guy, right? We don't have those guys, which we shouldn't. You're not going to get those levels of players every single year.
No.
It's going to be which one of these guys is going to put in the work. And if you have a strong lean on any one of these players, like you like Jonathan Mingo, I'm probably taking Rashee Rice ahead of Jonathan Mingo because, listen, for players that are similar, that's winning in a lead opportunity based on landing spot, right? That's the time. Right. You don't choose in Dynasty football, you choose talent over opportunity and landing spot.
And I burned myself going against that principle before in the past.
So that's the biggest thing. Have a board, trust your own board, right?
Yeah.
Brandon, we're at 57 minutes. We're going to end it here. I can tell you got so many more takes, which is good for me because that means you're going to be motivated to come back on the damn show when your schedule allows it. And hey, you know what's kind of crazy? I'm going to be up in your neck of the woods in a few months. So
I know
the boys are going to be hanging out, which is pretty fantastic.
I'm going to show them a little bit of Colorado.
There we go, baby. There we go. So all of our content over at dfsarmy.com. For those of you who stuck around to the end of the program, thank you so much. Please make sure that you are subscribed to this show. We're a little niche fantasy football show here at the DFS Army. We're trying to grow it. Hit the bell so you're notified every time we go live. And we're putting out content. We're back to it, baby. We're getting content every single week. I'm going to be on tomorrow, actually, talking with the cock and maybe Charlatan himself, Flex Matt, talking about some of his favorite rookie takes. We're just getting
started. Talk to him about Sean Tucker. Tell us how good Sean Tucker was.
We're definitely talking about Sean Tucker. We're definitely going to talk about Sean Tucker. All right, Brandon, thanks for jumping on dfsarmy.com. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen.
Big time. Knowing that.